It's time for Mad Science with Melissa! Be prepared to be amazed as we explore water and some of the amazing science experiments we can conduct using water. And now, here's our host, the mad scientist herself, Miss Melissa!
Hello, everybody! Thank you so much for joining me today for Mad Science with Melissa. Today, we are going to learn about the wonder of water. Water is so amazing. You can clean things with it, you can swim in it, you can drink it, and you can even float in it. Well, today, we are going to do some experiments to show us some other amazing things we can do with water. In front of me, I have a glass container filled with water. I also have a card with some letters written on it. But there's a problem with these letters, isn't there? They're all backwards. But look what happens when I move the card behind the container of water. Now can you read the word? It says Jesus. Isn't it so cool that looking through the water changed our perspective on reading the letters? This happens because of something called refraction, which bends the light as it travels through the water, causing you to see the reflection of the letters. Isn't science amazing? Now let's move to our next experiment using water. For this experiment, we need cooking oil and water. Did you know oil and water don't mix? We're gonna use that fact to help us create a perfect lava storm. First, we start with a little bit of water in the container, then a larger amount of cooking oil. Now I'm gonna add some food coloring. We'll add red because that will be the perfect lava. Then we're gonna use these tablets like your mom and dad might use if they have an upset stomach. Add them to the container and watch what happens. Whoa. Look at that! The food coloring is getting shaken up and the tablets are pushing air up into the oil, causing a pretty cool lava storm. It'll keep doing that until all the air runs out. Now for our last experiment, we have a plate with some water on it. We're going to place a candle right in the middle. My goal here is to make the candle float, but that'll be challenging, won't it? So let's help the candle out a bit. We're going to light the candle and cover it with this glass container. Now eventually, the oxygen in the glass container is going to be all used up because of the pressure on the water on the outside. The water is going to try to correct the pressure and float up into the container, which is gonna make the candle float. Isn't science super cool? I love seeing the way that we can use water to create awesome experiments. We talked earlier about all the things you can do with water. Drink it, wash with it, float on it, but have you ever tried to walk on water? I mean, if you're in a swimming pool, would you be able to walk across from one side to the other? No, because science says that's impossible. It's not solid enough to hold you up. But did you know God has control of the earth and all the things on it? Do you think if God wanted someone to walk on water, that it could happen? There's a story in the Bible about that very topic. Let me tell you how it goes. Jesus had been doing many amazing things in his ministry. He did things people thought were impossible to do. These things he did were called miracles. Jesus was able to do these because he had the power of God. His disciples had witnessed Jesus do many of these miracles. I'm sure they were amazed when they saw him feed 5,000 people with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. It was probably incredible whenever he calmed a storm by saying, "Peace, be still." Everything that Jesus did probably made the disciples have a lot of faith. But what does it mean to have faith? Faith is believing what God says is true, even when we don't always understand it. I wonder if Jesus' disciples had faith. Now back to the story. It was night. Jesus had sent his disciples to get into a boat onto the Sea of Galilee. Jesus wanted to have some alone time so he could pray. During the night, a huge storm came upon the disciples. They were still in the boat. It caused the boat to rock back and forth. I bet they were terrified. Just as the sun was beginning to rise, the disciples saw a figure walking towards the boat. What was going on? He was walking on top of the water, as if it was dry ground. They looked at each other. What was this? Was it a ghost? Surely it wasn't a real person. People can't walk on top of water. But hadn't they just seen Jesus do many miracles? Then the person walked out and called to them and said, "It is I! Don't be afraid." Peter was the first disciple to recognize that voice. It belonged to Jesus. But could it really be him? Peter was about to take a giant leap of faith. He said, "Lord, if it's really you, command me to walk on water." Wow, what an awesome faith. Peter decided that he would take a step out, and Jesus said to Peter, "Come." So Peter stepped out of the boat and onto the water, and he didn't sink. In fact, he started walking toward Jesus on top of the water, just like Jesus was doing. Peter kept his eyes on Jesus and kept walking closer and closer, but the wind started blowing harder and Peter started getting nervous. What if the wind knocked him over? He took his eyes off of Jesus for a second, and he was worrying about the wind and the storm, and suddenly the water wasn't holding him up anymore. Peter was sinking. He realized he was going down, down, down into the water. He looked up towards Jesus. He raised his arm and shouted, "Lord, save me!" Jesus looked at Peter as he reached out and pulled him up out of the water and said to Peter, "Oh, Peter, where is your faith? Why did you doubt?" Peter and Jesus walked back to the boat and climbed inside. The disciples bowed to Jesus, knowing that without a doubt, no human could do the things Jesus was doing. They knew he was God's son, and they were in awe of him. You know what is amazing? We can do all kinds of cool things with science, but God is the creator of the universe. He is the one who created science that we find so fascinating. He has all the power to do these things every day. Do you have faith that God is right beside you, taking care of you? Do you continue to have faith that God is in control, even when things aren't going perfectly in life? This is what we remember, to always keep our eyes focused on Jesus. We are going to have problems in the world because the world isn't perfect, but we can't let those things cause us to get off track and lose our faith. God says in the book of John, chapter 16, verse 33, "In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world." Jesus is saying that God will be with us to see us through the hard times. He's always in control, and we can always trust him. I hope you all enjoyed our amazing science experiments today, and I hope you learned something about faith today too. Goodbye until next time.
We'll see you next time on another episode of Mad Science with Melissa. Until then, remember this: science is cool, and so are you.